Joanne McNally, who we've had on the podcast before, she's back on the dating apps, and she was making a joke about the fact that she wants to lie about her age because she's just clicked over 40. She wanted to take a year or two off on the app.
Just to stay in the 30 bracket.
To match with people. But it wouldn't let her because it said she's already changed it twice.
I matched with a guy on a dating app and we met up for lunch yesterday. I made a comment about how he and I were of similar age and generation, me being 38 and, well, him being 40. To which he said, "Oh, no, sorry, I'm actually 45. This is not the first, second, or third time that this has happened to me. I have had this happen an innumerable amount of times, and there is always that excuse of like, oh, the app wouldn't let me change it. To which my thought is, well, if you were honest in the first place, you wouldn't need to change anything. My question is, 1, do women put an incorrect age in the dating app too? My experience is with dating men, and I am curious about whether it's something everyone does or not. Number 2, he was otherwise lovely, so is it better to just brush this aside and accept that it was a mistake? Or do I take this as being insincere and potentially an amber flag? I like that she's not calling it a red flag. An amber flag that the guy could be a jerk.
No, it's fine. Everyone lies on dating apps. I'm not saying it's okay to lie. I'm not saying it's okay to lie. But when I say it's fine because he hasn't lied to your face. Like on the app, it's incorrect, but he told you straight away. I think the problem would be here if he had lied to you for however long, you'd hooked up, you were sleeping together, whatever, and then he was like, psych, I'm 10 years older, whatever. I think that's the problem. But I know a lot of people, and again, I'm not saying it's okay. I know a lot of people lie about their age on dating apps, and some people it's unintentional. Sometimes your age goes in incorrectly for whatever reason. Maybe you lied about it 10 years ago. Some apps won't let you change it because they think you put it in honestly at the start and now you're trying to change it to lie. So some apps only give you like 2 date changes. So if someone fucked around on an app with their age 10 years ago, the app's going to be like, ain't let you change it.
I don't know. Part of me is like, okay, I agree with you. I don't think it's a big deal. It's like, what, 5 years?
And he told you.
Whether he's 40 or 45, like I'm still going to date the guy if the guy's a great guy, right? I don't think I'm not going to care about that level of an age gap. The only thing that makes me go a bit like, oh, yuck, is the fact that it's normally men, I would say, and they usually age themselves down. And the reason for that is because they want to date younger women, right? So they don't want to age themselves out of a younger woman's age category. And that's why they've put a younger age in the first place, which is part of me is just like, oh, you're fucking grubby. But I know also, I don't know, the fact that he didn't lie about you on the first date, like you've got there, you can make up your own mind. I think if there's honesty there, then I would feel less deceived that if you've gone on several dates with someone, they have lied on their dating app about their age and then they wait until you're invested in them to tell you their age. I think that that's really shit.
This happened to me once and I actually felt really gross. I remember, and I feel gross thinking back to that time now. I was in my 20s and late 20s. I matched with this guy online and we vibed. He was really nice. Like we got along really well. He definitely looked older than his age, but I didn't hold that against him because I still knew his age, right? He told me his age. I must have been 28 or something and he was mid-30s. So I was like, fine. Like,
you're like, okay, I can do 10 years.
But he looked older. But I was like, okay, he was a surfer. I was like, you're weathered. You spent some time in the sun, like whatever.
The Australian ozone layer is rough.
And it didn't bother me because I was going off how I felt. We went on a couple of dates. We were seeing each other for a couple of weeks.
Did you have sex with him?
We had sex because I probably saw him maybe for 5-6 weeks. We had sex and then after that amount of time, he had said something, and I don't remember what he had said, but he'd said something where I realized the timeline and the age didn't add up. And I was like, oh, but I thought you had done this by that age. I thought you were over here. You said it that. And he was like, like, so almost like you got me. He's like, my age is incorrect on the dating app. And I was like, oh.
But was it incorrect when you told me your actual age as well?
Exactly. And I was like,
when you verbalized it.
Yeah. And it wasn't a couple of years. He was in his late 40s. Yeah. It was probably a 12-year lie, which I know a lot of you thinking now.
Which is 22 years difference.
Well, I know you're thinking now, like, how did I not see it? But I just didn't because A, I trusted him. B, he looked, in my head, I was like, you do look a bit older. But he didn't, having said that, he didn't look as old as his age. Once I knew his late 40s, I was like, oh, you don't look that old, but you looked older than what I thought.
Yeah,
and sure. I just immediately felt so gross. I was like, I just felt ill. I was like, I just, so deceptive. Like I slept
predatory?
with you and you probably know I wouldn't have if you had have told me the truth. So that is fucked. But in this situation, I think 5 years, he told you immediately on your very first date at lunch. And if you think he's a great guy, I don't think it's a red flag necessarily.
Yeah.
Funnily, Joanne McNally, who we've had on the podcast before, she's the Irish comedian. I was listening to her talk about something very similar last week. And she's back on the dating apps. She broke up with a partner. She's back on the dating apps. And she was making a joke about the fact that she wants to lie about her age because she's just clicked over 40. She's like, a couple of years ago on the apps, I was killing it. She's like, now I'm not. I'm not getting the matches, and I've realized why. Because once you click over, she's like, I think I've clicked over into the 40 bracket. So people's age brackets, they're not finding me. She's like, but I look younger than 40 and I act younger than 40 and I want to be younger than 40. She's like, so I wanted to change. She wanted to take a year or two off on the app.
Just to stay in the 30 bracket.
Just to match with people. But it wouldn't let her because it said she's already changed it twice. Which I think is really funny. But when the way she said it, I understood it. I was like, I get that because you don't feel like a 41 or 42-year-old. And a lot of people have cut you off at the age of 40 because that's what we put in our age bracket.
And you're like, hey, just give me a chance. I'm still cool.
I'll win you over. Yeah, I'm hip.
I agree with you. I think that the variance of a couple of years is not a big deal. And the transparency early on in dating, it makes it fine. Your situation though, Britt, is fucked, and that to me is very predatory.
Gross,
that is a man who is like well above a certain age bracket who is prying on younger girls and knows that if he puts his truthful age bracket in, he won't get swiped right to. Like that
100%.
that is clear deception. Whereas this I feel a little bit differently about. I don't know. I personally think it is weird that people lie on dating apps about this sort of stuff because then you have to have that uncomfortable conversation on a first date anyway. That's so awkward to me. But I also do understand why people don't feel as though they have to be truthful because they also feel like they don't owe you anything yet. They're like, I don't know that person. Like, what does it matter to anyone if I say XYZ about myself that is or isn't true? So I kind of, there's part of me that has a little bit of an allowance for it, but only to a certain point, and only to a certain point in terms of what's their objective. What are they trying to achieve out of it? And yeah, there's definitely a line that was crossed in your instance.
Sorry, I couldn't hold that in. I just sneezed my headphones off. I just sneezed so hard. My headphones.
All right. Well, I feel like we wrapped on that question anyway.